One of our national icons is in crisis. The koala has been listed as endangered on the East Coast.
Yeah, the Koala Foundation says that whoever wins the election next week will need to take urgent action, or they'll be responsible for the koala's extinction. Chair of the Australian Koala Foundation, Deborah Tabart, joins us now from Brisbane. Deborah, it's a pleasure to speak to you. What has caused the dramatic decline in koala numbers here?
Well, it's just we keep cutting their trees down. So how can they possibly survive if we knock down their house, they haven't got anything to eat, they go on the move, they get eaten by a dog or they get run over by a koala, but like a car, and then they get sick, and then you need medicine for them and hospitals and things like that. So our message is really simple: no tree, no me. If you keep cutting the trees down, we're going to lose them. And
we can't forget what we saw after those the Black Summer bushfires. So many koalas were killed. In January, the Prime Minister pledged $50 million to restore koala habitat and also put into research. But last month, the New South Wales government committed $200 million. Is all this money enough, or do we need some more?
No, look, it's not a question of money. This is about political will. The Environment Minister, Susan Lee, was my 14th Environment Minister in my career, and the next person who will play that role will be number 15.
Wow.
And what they don't do is that they don't just say this legislation has to stop those trees coming down. So you can have the koala listed, but the landscape isn't. And I noticed Labor put out 24 million today. It's just nonsense. They need to make sure that we need a Koala Protection Act that basically says, you, Mr. Developer, coal miners, everything, you have to be controlled about how you cut trees down. And you can still go about your business. But at the moment, we have no political will, and I'm just hoping that this new government will understand the world wants to protect the koalas, the Australian people do, and I'm having a feeling that when you see the political people putting a koala in their arms, they've got to actually follow through and do something. So it's a Koala Protection Act. It's the only way it's going to fix it.
What's the koala recovery plan? And is that the solution in your eyes?
Well, the Koala Recovery Plan is part of the EPBC Act, which Mr Samuels did a review of, that says that it's not fit for purpose. And I noticed Labor today says that they're going to make sure it is. But I've been watching this legislation for 20 years and it's never saved a piece of habitat. So I'm saying we don't have time for you to re-knit a jumper that doesn't fit. I want you to accept our Koala Protection Act and get on with the job. And thousands and millions of other species would be protected if you just protect those koala forests, which are 20% of the continent, for goodness sake.
So, Deborah, you've mentioned it a couple of times, but can you explain to us a little bit more about the Koala Protection Act? What would it cost, and what would it what would it kind of put out there that would be in place?
I think people would be shocked to know that legislation the EPBC Act, for instance, you can have land clearing as a threatening process, but if you don't have the minister go, right, I think this is a threatening process, I'm going to trigger the act. And when I first learnt that, I was like, what in the heck? So the Koala Protection Act says you cannot cut trees down unless you, the proponent, says this will do no harm. Now, that's why they're scared of it, because it absolutely crosses things over. It says, sorry, you're not going to be able to do it. And as I've said in my press release, if any company is scared of this, then they shouldn't be in business, because we've worked with the developer. We help build 500 houses in koala habitat. It's just that industry wants to be able to just flatten things, and everyone's sick of seeing the bulldozers, aren't we? There's not a person listening to me who hasn't seen a koala habitat flattened. Time for that to go, and I will be in Canberra as soon as that new person puts their bottom on that seat. I want a Koala Protection Act, and I intend to get it, because I have the Australian people behind the koala. They know what I'm saying is the truth.
You're fabulous, Deborah. You'd have a lot of support as well. For more information, you can head to savethekoala.com. Deborah, thanks again for your time. We really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Now, after